the state of Iowa in the heart of the United States. An endless hypnotic horizon of green fields stretching under a blazing heavy summer sun. To the casual observer driving down these rural roads, this is just quiet, traditional agriculture, a peaceful landscape of soil and sweat. But behind this mask of simplicity lies a brutal corporate battlefield, a world where multinational chemical giants wage an invisible war and where every single acre of land is calculated in billions of dollars. Imagine a young boy in the mid-1950s kneeling on the hard frozen ground of a wooden barn. His hands are rough, stained with dirt and cattle manure. His eyes are tired. Inside the classroom, his mind constantly fights against a severe form of dyslexia and a mild autistic spectrum that his teachers fail to understand. In this era, they don't call it a learning disability. They call it a lack of capability. The school system, his peers, and the community expected absolutely nothing from him. They assumed he would spend his entire life doing basic, manual labor on his family's modest homestead. But inside that quiet boy's mind, a completely different reality was unfolding. Harry Stine possessed a visual and mathematical processing skill that bordered on the supernatural. Where others saw a simple, chaotic field of plants, he saw data. He saw complex geometric structures, biological algorithms, and invisible patterns that the most elite scientists from global corporations completely ignored. He could look at a single soybean plant and calculate its genetic potential faster than the early mainframe computers of his time. That boy was Harry Stine. Today, that same boy who grew up cleaning stables does not have a famous face on the covers of global business magazines. He doesn't wear tailored Italian suits. He doesn't live in a penthouse in New York. And he completely avoids the glamorous galas of the Silicon Valley tech elite. Yet from a modest, unassuming desk in a small brick office in the middle of rural Iowa, he controls a personal fortune of nearly $10 billion. He did not invent a viral social network. He does not manufacture autonomous electric cars or aerospace rockets. He did something infinitely more powerful and far more critical to human survival. He quietly and strategically patented the genetic foundation behind the planet's food supply. Welcome to Land Titans. Before we uncover the astonishing, cold, and calculated strategy of how this silent farmer cornered the richest corporate monopolies on Earth, click the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Because true absolute power is never displayed on flashy digital screens. It is hidden deep within the seeds. And you need to understand exactly how the world is dominated from the root up. To truly grasp Harry Stine's masterstroke, we must first step back and enter the highly confidential, sterile laboratories of modern global agriculture. During the late decades of the 20th century, the nature of food production changed forever. The world's largest chemical and pharmaceutical conglomerates made a massive historic discovery. They realized that the ultimate frontier of wealth was not in selling bags of fertilizers or chemical sprays to farmers. The real money was in owning the intellectual property of life itself. They began a ruthless global race to alter and register the legal patents for soybean and corn seeds. These two crops form the absolute foundation of the entire Western world's meat, dairy, and processed food supply chains. Monolithic corporations, backed by vast armies of corporate lawyers, patent experts, and multi-million-dollar research budgets, began aggressively buying up independent seed labs. Their objective was clear: create a total monopoly where every farmer on Earth would be legally forced to buy proprietary seeds from them, year after year, paying whatever price the corporation demanded. They believed that the traditional, independent farmers of America would simply fall into line, sign the contracts, and obey the new rules of the corporate elite. But they made a catastrophic error. They did not count on the obsessive, calculated mind of a single man who refused to be a pawn on their multi-billion-dollar chessboard. When Harry Stine inherited his father's small, struggling farm, he didn't focus on buying more tractors or hiring more hands. Instead, he transformed an old, dusty wooden barn into a highly advanced secret data collection laboratory. While corporate scientists with PhDs were locked inside high-tech facilities trying to force complex, unnatural chemical modifications into the plants, Stine focused on the raw power of nature. He turned to pure, natural genetic selection combined with relentless, obsessive mathematical yield analysis per acre. Stine spent thousands of silent nights cataloging tens of thousands of individual seed variations. He would walk the fields for 12 hours a day, selecting only the plants that showed exceptional traits. Then, under a single hanging light bulb in his barn, he crossed the strongest varieties, analyzed their physical resistance to droughts, and logged every micro-result into a complex proprietary data matrix. He designed this system himself, using symbols and visual patterns to bypass his dyslexia. He discovered a fundamental truth that the corporate elite had forgotten. Nature already had the answers. It just took a level of patience, human observation, and discipline that a corporate boardroom could never understand. By the early 1990s, working almost entirely in isolation, Stine achieved a biological breakthrough that the entire industry deemed impossible. He engineered a specific variety of soybean that produced up to 30% more yield per acre than any seed ever developed in the multi-million-dollar laboratories of its corporate rivals. His fields were mathematically perfect. They were naturally immune to the pests and weather anomalies that were completely ruining the crops of his neighbors. It didn't take long for the global chemical giants to notice. Their satellite data and field agents reported that an independent, quiet farmer in Iowa was consistently outperforming their entire global research network. They realized Harry Stine held a biological product in his hands that was decades ahead of their own technology. At first, they tried to buy his property outright, offering him sums of money that would change any normal family's life forever. When he said no, they tried to use their immense legal weight to pressure him, threatening to bury his small operation under endless patent lawsuits. But Stine knew the laws of the free market better than their entire legal department. He had spent decades studying the mechanics of the U.S. patent system. Instead of selling his life's work or backing down in fear, Stine made a cold, calculated decision that completely inverted the hierarchy of agricultural power. He began patenting the specific genetic material and breeding lines of his seeds on a massive, unprecedented scale. Crucially, he didn't sell the physical soybeans to the market. He kept the ownership and sold only the legal license to use the underlying DNA. The multinational giants suddenly found themselves walking directly into a perfect, inescapable legal trap. If they wanted to remain competitive and sell the highest-yielding, most profitable seeds to the American market, they were mechanically forced to use Stine's genetics. And to do that, they had to pay Harry Stine a direct, non-negotiable royalty for every single bag of seeds that left their multi-billion-dollar factories. The quiet Iowa farmer had pulled off the ultimate corporate heist. The largest chemical conglomerates on planet Earth had effectively been reduced to his personal distribution network. Today, the Stine Seed Company remains a silent, terrifyingly efficient powerhouse. Practically 60% of all soybeans grown in the United States, and a massive, staggering portion of the entire global agricultural supply, carries the exact genetic signature developed decades ago in that old Iowa barn. Harry Stine has no corporate debts. He has no outside venture capital partners, no board of directors to answer to, and no shareholders to please. He is the absolute, sovereign owner of a biological printing press. An empire that automatically generates massive amounts of wealth every single time a seed touches the soil, anywhere on the face of the earth. Now well into his 80s, Stine has refused to let billions of dollars corrupt his focus. He still lives in the exact same rural Iowa house, drives a common, unpretentious car, and regularly eats lunch at the same small-town diners. He understood a secret that most modern billionaires never learn. True, ultimate luxury is not public attention, fame, or a high-profile media presence. True luxury is absolute sovereignty over a physical resource that humanity fundamentally depends on for its very survival. His life story stands as absolute proof that raw technical knowledge, combined with a relentless, quiet discipline, can utterly crush the raw cash and arrogance of global corporations. Stine did not use political influence, he did not use brute force, and he did not use corporate cruelty. He used pure mathematics, sharp observation, and an unshakable connection to the soil beneath his feet. But the historic struggle for control of the planet's land is not always fought in sterile laboratories, with legal patents, or through quiet mathematical data. What happens when the ultimate empire is built not through the genetics of a single seed, but by physically conquering a wild, chaotic, and completely indomitable geographic territory? What happens when a single family decides to deprivate a hostile, forgotten wilderness that the entire scientific world considered completely impossible to cultivate, and ends up building the most massive agricultural export monopoly in Latin America? In our next episode, we are traveling deep into the frontier states of Brazil to uncover the epic, intense story of Blairo Maggi, the man who defied the literal limits of global geography to construct a soybean kingdom that single-handedly transformed the economy of an entire nation. You will see how heavy logistics, massive physical risk, and unyielding territorial ambition can move literal mountains of wealth. Do not let the algorithm dictate what history you consume. Click the video appearing on your screen right now to continue this journey of absolute power, human grit, and macro strategy. Subscribe to Land Titans. Leave your comment below on the incredible mathematical mind of Harry Stine, and we will see you in the next empire.